Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and welcome back. I'm Jeannie and I'm super excited for today's video because West Coast Dips recently released some new dip liquids and they sent them over for me to try. So of course I wanted to record it to share with you my first impressions of these liquids. Even though they were sent to me as an ambassador for West Coast Dips, you will always get my honest opinions, and I've used tons of different brands of dip liquids. I love trying new liquids and I love sharing with you my thoughts on them. So these are going to be my first impressions. I haven't opened the bottles yet. So in case you're on the market for new dip liquids or you are curious about these, I'm going to share with you everything I think about them. These bottles were shut super tight in order to prevent leakage in transit. So in order to open them, this is the hack that works for me probably like 98% of the time. So I just took a rubber band and I wrapped it around the neck of the bottle, and that gave me enough grip to open the bottle. So I recommend trying that if you're struggling with bottles. But taking a look at these liquids, this is the dip base. It seems like it's about a thinner consistency, but I'll know more when I try it with my mani. Looking inside the neck of the bottle, they do have the wiper insert. So this is really good for helping with liquid control so you don't have too much liquid on your brush. And then I just gave it a quick sniff test. I don't recommend that, but I will say these are very low odor, probably even more low odor than their original formula, which I thought was low odor. So not a lot of smell there, but obviously I'll know more once I use it and exposed to it longer. Taking a look at the activator, really as far as consistency, all activators are the same as far as consistency, but when I use it, I'll see the dry time of it. This also does have the wiper insert in it as well. I did give this a sniff test as well. Not a super strong odor, but all activators do have some scent. It's just not super strong. And then lastly, we're going to take a look at the dip top coat as well. So the one thing I'll say as I'm opening this is I love these bottles. They are so sleek looking. I think they're so beautiful. So looking at the top coat, it does look like it's also a thinner consistency. It has a wiper insert in it. I love the brushes in these bottles as well. They are square, which I prefer the oval, but I do love that they're thinner. They fan out nicely, but I'll talk a little bit more as I'm actually working with them to see like what I think of them. So of course, in order to do that, I do need dip powders to do this mani. So we're going to do a easy summer mani using some neon colors because you know I've been loving neon colors. I'm going to be starting with my solid colors first. The first one I'm using is Pink Panther. This is a neon hot pink, which is going to go on my index finger. Now, I'm really careful with my liquids, especially the first time I use them, because I have a tendency to flood my cuticles the first time I use liquids, just because I'm not as familiar with them. So I like to remove as much of that dip base from the brush as possible to avoid flooding my cuticles. So I'm just applying a thin, even layer of that dip base to my entire nail. I love how thin these brushes are. They fan out beautifully. They make application of the dip base really easy. So I'm going ahead, I'm dipping into Pink Panther, tapping off the excess powder, and then I want to make sure that I'm cleaning up my cuticle area and sidewalls to remove any excess product. But luckily, I didn't flood my skin, so it really helped removing as much of that liquid as possible. And that's where it's nice to have those wiper inserts in the bottle to help you with that liquid control. So I'm just being really careful at first because I wasn't sure about the dry time of it. So as I'm dusting off, I'm realizing it is dry, so I can dust off that excess powder. So I'd say as far as dry time, this is about a medium to fast dry time. So it's not super fast where I'm rushing, but it's definitely not slow. So I really like this dry time because I have plenty of time to apply my base, dip into the powder, but I'm not sitting around waiting for it to dry in order for me to dust off. So almost immediately after I'm done with my first layer, I can dust off the excess powder and keep going. I do have the old formula of their liquids, and if you have them as well, I'd say it's been a while since I've used them, but I do feel like these are even thinner than the old formula, which I don't mind a thin formula because that means you get less bulk. But I was trying to make sure that I wasn't flooding my cuticles, I wasn't getting enough liquid on my brush. So there were occasions where I had to dip back in to cover my entire nail. But I think it's just more of getting used to using the liquids. A couple of other things I wanted to mention before I forget is that there were actually two different dip liquids that were released. So there's the regular dip liquid set, which I'm using in today's video and reviewing, but there's also a sensitive dip liquid set. So those are for those that are prone to dip flu. They're supposed to be low odor, no odor. But having said that, these regular dip liquids that I'm using right now, they are very low to no odor as well. Like I barely smelled it when I did a sniff test and I put it up to my nose. Like this entire time I did the mani, I did not smell anything. So much to the point of after I finished this mani, I actually looked on the website thinking, oh, maybe Jolene sent me the sensitive dip liquid set, but nope. These are the regular dip liquid sets. So the black bottles are the regular, and then the black bottles with the white label are the sensitive. So I am really impressed that these don't have much odor at all. So whether or not, I guess it really depends on how sensitive you are to dip liquid odors or not, and whether or not you get dip flu. But these may work for you, or you may want to try the sensitive formula. But it's nice that there are options. I don't have the sensitive dip liquids, so I can't review them for you, but I have seen some people start to review them as they're getting them, and I've seen mostly positive reviews on them. So if you get dip flu, they may be worth trying. I mean, I have had dip flu before, but it's very rare. For me, it's more about like overexposure if I've done like a ton of manis back to back and done swatching. So, like, I've just been exposed to dip liquids for a long period of time, then I may get dip flu. But other than that, luckily, I don't really get dip flu. So I probably wouldn't be a good test subject for that anyway. But I always actually do get curious on the dry time. So what I've been hearing people say is it is probably like a medium dry time, which is good to hear because a lot of those like odorless dip liquids that other companies have are super slow, which I just do not have the patience for. I haven't had the time to do a lot of swatching lately, but that's when I feel like having sensitive dip liquids would really come in handy because if I have a lot of swatching to do, that would be a lot of exposure. Whereas if I could use a sensitive dip liquid, I wouldn't have to worry about getting dip flu. I've tried it before with the other brands, but like I said, they were too slow dry time, so swatching took forever. So that's why I just use regular dip liquids when I do swatching. So maybe eventually I'll pick up these sensitive dip liquids to give a try, at least for swatching if they're faster dry time. I forgot to hit record, but I did cap my solid nails in clear, and then after that dried, I scrubbed off the excess powder using a stiff scrub brush. I didn't have to wait long at all before I could scrub that excess powder off. So really great dry time with this dip base. So now I'm going ahead and activating my solid nails. So I'm just applying a generous amount of activator to all the nails because I want to make sure that it's penetrating through all three layers of the dip powder. So two layers of color, one layer of clear. I want to make sure that that's penetrating through, curing all the layers. So I'll say dry time is about 2 minutes before I was ready to file and buff, but I'm not going to do that until after I'm done with my glitter, and then I'll do all my nails together. The glitter I decided to use for today's mani is Moon Boots, and this is part of a Neon 80s collection that was released maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I've kind of lost track of time, but I thought it would be perfect for this mani because I love neon colors for the summertime. And this one was such a fun one with like that neon highlighter yellow base, but it also has like the neon blue, neon pink, neon green glitters in there. So it's just like a fun bunch of colors. It's not a super chunky glitter. So it has like small and medium hex glitters in there, but it's very spaced out. So it's not super chunky, which makes it easier to use. And I think that's like a really good test of a dip liquid as well, using glitters to see your dry time on that, which I did not have any issues at all because after I did my two dips of the glitter, I did just a little bit of glitter placement. I'm talking like five or less pieces of glitter on my middle finger, and I had plenty of dry time for that. Like I wasn't rushing around. Whenever I'm working with glitters that have hex pieces in them for my first layer, I like to make sure that I don't have a lot of those hex pieces in that layer just because a lot of those hex pieces could create bulk. So I only get a few in my first layer for my middle finger and thumb, so not really a big deal. But for my second layer, that's when I want more of those hex pieces because I just think they're so pretty and I love the pops of color. So you can see here on my thumb, there are some pieces that I want to move off my nail. So I have plenty of time to remove them from my nail because I don't want too many. But if they're kind of stuck on there, that's completely fine. And then I also like to make sure that I'm pressing down to make sure that those glitters are laying flat as the dip base is drying. So I'm going to go ahead, dust off the excess powder, and then I'm going to go in with my second layer. So I'm just tapping the jar against the table because the larger glitter pieces, they're heavier, so they're gonna sink to the bottom. So I tap my jar on like my table or like on a flat surface just to bring them to the surface because I do want the larger glitter pieces in my second layer. After I finish with my glitters, I'm going to cap them in clear using my West Coast Dips Crystal Clear. The reason why I'm capping them in clear is because I'm going to be doing some filing and buffing. And if I were to file and buff directly on top of the glitters without protecting them with a layer of clear, I would file through the color. So most glitters have a silver in the middle. It's just a color on the surface. So if I file directly on top, you would see like the silver with the glitter, which I want the glitters to stay the color they are, which is why I want to make sure that I'm protecting them with the clear. And that's why it's also important to have a good glitter to work with, especially if they're larger pieces, because if they're sticking up, you're going to file through them. So the flatter they lay, the thinner they are, the easier they are to work with, the less likely you are to file through them. And I didn't have any issues with these glitters. They were super thin, they laid flat. I didn't have to worry about like them sticking up, anything like that. So that was super easy to do. I capped my salad nails in clear as well. And the reason I like to cap salads in generally in clear anyway, but the reason I did that, especially for these, was because they're neon colors, they have neon pigments. So I was worried about filing through the pigments and having them look splotchy just because I know neon pigments are different than like other pigments. So I was just trying to play it safe. So anyway, after I capped in clear, I like to make sure that I'm pressing down that clear, making sure that it's getting fully absorbed in the dip base. And I also want to make sure that it's getting into like all those nooks and crannies of the glitter so that I have a smooth surface that there aren't any like uneven areas of my nail. So you can see here, after I capped and clear, I'm going to go ahead and I'm starting by dusting off the excess powder, just using like a regular dust brush. But then once I know that they're fully dry, I'm going to go in with a stiff scrub brush and make sure that I'm scrubbing off that excess clear. And that really ensures you don't get any graininess or cloudiness, any bubbles. So it really helps because your regular dust brush does get off some of the excess clear, but it makes a huge difference to go in and scrub with a stiff scrub brush. So now I'm going to go ahead and activate my nails. So I want to apply a generous amount of activator to all my nails. And even though these glitters are already super flat, like there's nothing sticking up, I will start pressing down as they're drying just to make sure that everything is as smooth as possible. So it's not really about the glitters laying flat, it's just making sure that the surface is smooth to file and buff on top of. So I applied my activator and then I'm waiting for it to dry down a little bit because if I press down when it's too wet, it's going to be sticky and then I could start pulling off the glitter and the dip powder. So as it's starting to dry down, when it's at that dry down point, I'm going to start pressing down, just making sure everything is smooth and even on the surface of the nail. If you do have glitters sticking up, this is such a good hack to prevent filing through them. But honestly, I didn't have to worry about that. It was more about getting that smooth surface in case there was still any like nooks and crannies left from after I capped and clear. But really, it's just habit to do that when I'm working with glitters. So again, I'm waiting for it to dry down a little bit. So if it looks like glossy and wet, it's probably too soon to start pressing down. But as it starts to get matte, that's kind of that sweet spot of when you can press down on it. You don't have to use your finger. You can also use like a little baggie or you can use like a finger cut. But I was just too lazy to get anything. So I'm just using my finger to kind of press down and smooth everything out. So I went ahead, filed and buffed off camera. Here's how the mani's looking. I love these colors so much, but now I am super excited to test out this dip top coat. So in order for your dip top coat to dry, it does need a layer of activator. So I'm going to apply one thin layer of activator to all my nails. I'm going to let that dry for a full 2 minutes and then we will get into dip top coat application. I waited a full 2 minutes for my activator to dry, and now I'm going to go in with my first layer of dip top coat. For my first layer, I'm applying it in 2 to 3 swipes on each nail. I want to be fairly quick about it. After each nail, I'm wiping my brush on a lint-free wipe to remove any excess activator before returning it to the bottle. After I'm done with my fifth nail, I'm ready to go in with my second layer of dip top coat. I know it's ready because my first layer will start looking a little dull and wrinkly. So for my second layer, I can take a couple extra strokes, make sure my entire nail is covered. I also want to make sure that I'm capping my free edge. I still also wipe my brush on a lint-free wipe in between each layer. You probably don't have to, but I like to keep that a habit. As always, I'm going to finish off my mani by rehydrating my cuticles with my Scales of a Mermaid Cuticle Balm. This is There Are No Mistakes, Just Happy Accidents. So this is a freebie from the Happy Accidents release. So from June 22nd to, I believe, June 29th, any orders above $30 will have this thrown into it. And trust me, you're going to want this one. It's like a soft French lavender with Earl Grey. It's just such a beautiful scent that I really want this as a mainline scent. And I do have an affiliate code. If you purchase anything from Scales of a Mermaid, you can use code Genie10 to save 10% off your orders and support me. If you use my code and it's before June 29th, just make sure that your order is $30 before shipping and after the discount so that you can get this freebie. So that pretty much wraps up today's video, and hello shine. This dip top coat is so shiny and I am so happy with these liquids. So my overall first impressions of these new dip liquids is I really love the new formula. The dip base and dip top coat, they are a thin formula. They've got about a medium to fast dry time. The brushes are nice and thin. They fan out evenly for great application. So overall, I highly recommend these if you want some good new dip liquids to try. But I am curious, are these types of reviews helpful for you? Do you like seeing them on this channel? Let me know down below in the comments. So I hope this was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a thumbs up. It lets me know to continue creating content like this and also helps YouTube recommend me to others, which helps grow my channel. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. I upload content every Monday and Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.